Yeah, look in the participant list, open that up, and so you may have to claim yourself as a host even though you are a host. I've noticed that in some of mine. Okay.
Yep, we're good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, welcome to our September event. This is our opportunity to encourage people to sign up. If you're not that full power member, there are some great opportunities coming to you from ATD to become a power member at a discount. So we're asking you to pay attention to those things. And power member simply means you're a member of your local chapter and you're a member of the national organization. Both have great advantages. We have a lot of events that we do that we offer free to our members. And we have a lot of discount that members get. So just encouraging you to do that. I don't know much about the Ann Arbor chapter, but we're proud about our Central Ohio chapter where we are ATD award winning. We are achieving our CARE credits, which simply means for you as members that we're meeting the expectations that the national organization has for us, how many things we deliver, what we do to support our members, all those kinds of things. And if you're interested in learning more about that, you'll find anybody on the board on our website, and we're happy to share what it takes to be accredited with CARE from ATD. But we're proud of that and very, very pleased with that. So if you haven't achieved or reached that power member, this is just a reminder to look forward to doing that, and keep an eye out for some opportunities coming up this month if they haven't already come up this month. I wanted to just introduce our speaker today, and you can see him on our screen, Matt Mattitude Booth. Matt is actually from my old stomping grounds, Dubuque, Iowa, and I lived a long time in Dubuque, Iowa. One of the three things, Matt, it's hard for me to pull things out of a great list of accomplishments. So I narrowed down to three, and I'm going to allow you to fill in any gaps that you think are important. I think, though, that the highly esteemed certified speaking professional is a lot to your credit as kind of what we're going to experience today. A master's degree in communication from the University of Dubuque, and more importantly, you're going to share your humor, quick wit, and help us connect to meaningful attitude change. How about that?
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds...
So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good. Dubuque, Iowa, it's not the end of the world, but you can see it from here. That's what one of my friends always says from the National Speakers Association when she sees me. Patricia Fripp is her name. So I love, for over 33 years, I've been on stages in front of groups of people with a microphone for over thousands of events. And I love that energy, and I love that feeling and that collective effervescence. You know, when we're in a room with a bunch of people, there's just an energy. I love meetings. I love the bathroom breaks and seeing people in the hallway and the lunches, at the buffet lunches, and then the cocktail out. But man, March 6th, it just quit for me. That was my last event, in-person event. And this has been extremely difficult for me because I probably speak once a week. So I'm about half of them I fly to, half I drive to. So I'm a lot like many, human beings are community people. We love to interact with others. And this has just been shut down. So what I've been thinking about, and since we have such a small group, which I really love, is say this with me, and I even want you to write this down. So grab your pen, put it on your device, whatever you have. And I've been working on this. Virtual is my friend. Virtual is my friend. I've been saying this to myself for about 2 weeks because one of my NSA buddies said that virtual needs to be your friend. I've almost been fighting it since March, like so many other people. I want to go to a meeting. When are we going to get back to normal? When's this coming? Virtual, I really believe, is going to be part of events from now on forever. We're going to have to get used to it. I hear so many people say, I just hate Zoom. I hate virtual. So we've got to change that mindset. And we have an advantage. We're just a small group. But I really want to focus on that virtual needs to be our friend. Because it's not going anywhere. Even when we get back to big meetings, there's going to be a virtual component to it. I did a virtual program last week. I had to drive to a studio 4 hours away. It was really weird. I've been doing virtual programs right here in my office for 6 months, and they had a virtual program, but I still had to drive and stay in a hotel. So it's not going anywhere. And I really don't, this meeting and getting back together in large groups is gonna start happening again end of 2021. It's not gonna be like a light switch coming on, which I hear people thinking, well, after the election, everything's gonna switch back on and go. It's not gonna go back to normal. We're not going back to normal. And people are like, well, there's a new normal. That's not even true. It's a now normal. We have a now normal. But even if they have a vaccine and everybody gets it, it's going to take 6-9 months or a year to plan these events and to get a hotel and to get a space. So just think of that. And I really want to say virtual is my friend. And since we're on such a small group, let me know what you think of that right now. What do you think of that? Have you been fighting the virtual? Are you embracing it? Let me know. Seema, what do you think? You seem to be talked about it a little bit before. What do you think?
Oh, I thought you were just because I'm the talkative one. I didn't know. Honestly, like kind of to what, we were talking about earlier, I've had to become a lot more. I always was, again, that tech savvy, not all the deep dive secrets, but like very troubleshooting oriented. I can troubleshoot really well. But now this has become my life, which is so never anything I want to do. Kind of like you, I need to see people. I need that community. I need to be able to touch and feel, and I don't get that, right, doing this. But I've learned how to create that community using the virtual system. And I've made it into my friend. And I've worked on trying to get folks that I work with, folks that I talk to, the same concept where they're also feeling the same thing or trying to get excited about it too. There are moments of fatigue, but you kind of have to, again, think to that point that, well, this is kind of where we're at. So let's do the best that we can with what we have. And that's where I try to keep that positive look, towards that. So that's my thought.
Great. Who else has a thought that they want to share? I know you have lots of thoughts.
We're spread out as an organization. So there's always been this hybrid of somebody virtual and somebody in person. And what's interesting is now that everybody's virtual, right, instead of trying to contribute to a meeting where there's a bunch of people around a conference room, that all you're able to do is listen on the phone and see the PowerPoint presentation shared on your screen. But at that point, we didn't have the cameras that we used and the interaction that we used. And Matt, I think that that's helped us connect better when we're meeting, instead of trying to remember who's on the phone or making sure you give them space to contribute to the meetings. Now we have gotten really good at doing everybody virtual. That's just one of my observations. Kurt, you're on mute.
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
So, Matt, you mentioned virtual is my friend. So I started thinking about, all right, well, what type of relationship do I have with it? And, you know, like a friend, I have bonded with it. I've grown used to it. I've gotten so pissed off at it that I don't talk to it for days sometimes. I could throw it against the wall. But I have learned a ton. I've grown to get to know people more than I ever thought I would. And so it in many ways, it is like a friendship for me.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. And analyzing what your relationship is with your friend that you've had for 6 months, a very close friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So I think the experience is, it's really interesting to look at how people embrace it or have trouble with it. In February this year, I was getting ready to go to Australia, and there's a guy at my work, and he really kept to himself most of the time. Really nice guy, chatted to him once or twice, and he told me before I went to Australia that he got this new job, and this is in February. And he said, "I'm going to be working from home," and I said, "Oh, it's good." I said, "Are you going to have a problem with that?" This is before the COVID stuff happened. He said, "No, actually, I suffer from social anxiety disorder. This is like a dream come true for me." And I said, "Well, I said my goodbyes because I knew that by the time I went to Australia and came back, that he would be gone." And then I heard about COVID when I was in Australia. I thought, "Oh, this guy's hit the jackpot. Like, not only did he get the job at a pay rate he wanted, he's now going to be working virtually all the time anyway, and he's happy." So, so that was interesting just to see a different person's perspective. People with social anxiety, there's a lot of people with disabilities or anxieties that this would be a good thing for. So yeah, it's interesting.
Excellent.
You know, on the flip side, the people that thrive with interaction, you know, we've had to find a way to do that, and the cameras do give you at least a little bit of that. But we are in our organization, we're very reluctant to put ourselves on camera all the time. So, but this small group, you can see at least there's ways to interact and engage and communicate more than just with your voice or your presentation that you're showing.
Yeah, and with a smaller group, it's better like this. So this is almost more intimate. When there's 200 squares, you know, you feel like you're on a TV show or something, and I can't really focus on anything except the camera, you know, because you just can't watch that many people. Kind of what I've been finding in the workforce lately, my observations and talking and consulting and coaching people is right now, people are mentally fragile. People are extremely fragile. This has just been going on since March. There's a couple big reasons people are so fragile. Number one is the amount of change, and not just the amount of change, but the velocity of change. So something happens one day, the next day the rules are different. One day we can do this at work, the next day you can't. So it's the velocity of change. Most professionals, I think, everyone says they don't like change, but that's not really true because there's always change, but it's when you're forced to change. And COVID has been a big disruptor, and it's just forced us to change. Now, I don't mind change, but I want it on my own terms. Like getting a new cell phone. I got a new cell phone a month ago. I was preparing myself mentally for like 3 months to get a new phone. And I know that's going to be a change for me. And I know like it's going to take me a month before this new phone really is like my old one, but it'll be faster. And I know there's things like when I finally travel somewhere and I get off the plane and I go to hit Uber for the first time, it's not going to have my information in it. So like, I know this, but what COVID was is your boss walked in to your office, gave you a different cell phone, like a new cell phone, but took yours with them and said, like, good luck. This has made us extremely mentally fragile, the velocity of change. Then you throw in the uncertainty on top of that. And what this has also done is complicated the crap out of everything. Everything is so complicated now, from going to the store to taking our kids to school. I was on a Zoom last week and there was 200 people on the Zoom and I sent them 50 books that they were gonna randomly give away. No one could give me an address where to send the books because no one wanted those dang books. You know, no one wanted this book at their house. And they couldn't send it to the office because no one is at the office. And everybody knew that if 50 books come to my house, where am I going to store them? And then that means eventually I'm going to have to get 50 envelopes, put 50 labels on it, and set, like, it just complicates the crap out of it. So this has made people mentally fragile. And right now, I'm not talking about other people mentally fragile. I'm talking just about you and me. I'm cuckoo. Like, you're doing things and you're saying things to people that you wouldn't normally do and say. Like, we're cracked. Like, my wife is mentally fragile. She's doing things that she wouldn't normally do. And I'm like, what? But this goes to your family and friends are doing this, your coworkers, prospect. I mean, like our kids are 10 and 8. Our boys are 10 and 8. They go to school part-time, Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday. How that makes any sense in the world, that just adds to my mental fragility, I don't know. Our 10-year-old was mad the first day because we have this brand new playground at school and they mulched it and everything, and there's caution tape around it. They can't use it. And he's like, Dad, why did they put brand new mulch on it? It's like they're just teasing us. And our boys' favorite part of school is mask break, when they get to go outside and take their masks off and walk around for 5 or 10 minutes. Like, everyone is like this. So knowing that, I really want you to cut people some slack. I really want you to try to understand them. Don't jump on them. Don't be judgmental. Here's another great example. Last week, I went to the grocery store. I've got my mask on. We have a mask mandate in town. And in comes my brother-in-law. And my brother-in-law's got his hat on, and he's not going to wear a mask, never. No one's going to tell him, give him a ticket if he wants. And I'm like, dude, just put your mask on. There's older people in here. Just put your, I'm not going to do it. I'm like, dude, you're kind of a moron. Just put your dang mask on. And he's like, no one can make me wear, it's just stupid. I'm like, okay, but it made me fragile. 1 hour later, I'm pumping gas in my car and I run into the gas station to pay for my gas and grab a pop, forget my mask. Almost bump right into this lady. She looks at me. She had the same look in her eyes that I had to my brother-in-law an hour earlier. Like, you moron, she looked at me. Where are your freaking mask? I'm like, gosh, like 1 hour ago, my brother-in-law was a moron. Now I'm the moron. Like, so we're all mentally fragile, and keep that in mind. And I don't know if you have what you think of that, if you're experiencing that, but it's our coworkers. It's the people at church are mentally fragile. We're worshiping, social distancing, having masks on. We have outdoor service, indoor service. We go to the indoor service where they live stream it. After that, there's an outdoor service. One of our members of our church was watching the live stream. She called the police and said, I'm a member of the church. There's people worshiping at the church without masks on. And so we're outside setting up for the next worship, and here comes the police. Is Pastor Tom there? Yeah, I'm the pastor. I'm not here to cause any problems or write you a ticket or shut anything down. The police were great, but we have to do our due diligence. Someone called in and said that they were a member of your church and people weren't wearing masks at worship. Now, we walk in, we're 6 feet away. I don't know what I don't even know anymore. Maybe I should be wearing a mask now. I read a study, it goes electronically. But you see how we're mentally fragile and we're doing things and saying things that we don't normally do. What are your thoughts on that? Have you had experiences like that?
I know for me, I don't know that I necessarily say things. At least I haven't caught myself saying things I don't normally do, but I definitely know I'm feeling things differently because I feel like there's just so much I have to think about all at the same time. And I'm not only thinking about for myself, but I'm thinking out for other people that I'm around. Or so there are times when I'm frazzled. I have obviously elderly parents that I also help. And Russell helps me too, but we help them, getting them to their appointments and making sure that they're wearing their masks and that they have their ID and their insurance card, all these things. But I think it's because this has become and it's part of the whole work from home. Now it seems like there's just more dumped on you at work. I don't know, maybe they think because I'm not driving in, I have that extra time to do extra work. I don't know what the thought process behind it is, but it is what it is. But I think just having that much crowded in your head and trying to just do the day-to-day stuff. So, speaking about the whole forgetting a mask thing. So about a week ago, I was taking my dad to a doctor appointment, and it was one that he had to go in person. And I've been there before, so it's not like, I didn't know the process and all of that. And I had my mask on, but I wear my mask around my dad anyway. Right. That's just my natural. Like I've gotten to a point where when I'm outside this house, just having a mask on doesn't bother me. It's like, it's there. It's like just another, it's like putting my hair up in a ponytail. It's no big deal. So I had my mask, he's got his walker, and we're walking up to the front and everything. And it wasn't until I got to the door, and of course my car is parked all the way over there. I'm thinking, oh God, I am not going to run over there to get a mask, because I know that the healthcare workers, they have extra masks in case we forget them. So I walked in with him, and kind of to your point, I mean, I got all the looks, and I'm like, I looked at my dad, I'm like, Dad, we forgot your mask, and so I went up to the counter and I said, is there any way you can give me a mask? I completely forgot his mask. The look this nurse gave me, I was like, okay, you don't belong in healthcare. You need to leave, seriously, because I'm in healthcare and I know you people just need to leave. Do not go down that road. I'm like, seriously? And she was very rude to me. I mean, she gave it, but she was very rude, and I'm sitting here thinking, no, that's not how it should be, and this is not. It's not like I'm coming in here every day asking you for a mask, or I'm not one of those patients that constantly forget to do that. But I didn't say anything. I was very friendly. I was very nice. So by the end of the conversation, she was very friendly. But it was just kind of like, kind of to her point, I had to think that she probably just had a really, excuse my language, but that's probably what happened, is she just had many people coming through with whatever issues or complaints or whatever it was, and I just happened to be the person that got the brunt of it, But yes, to that point, so that's an experience that I did have where you could tell the other person was just like, she was done. That day she just was done, and she made sure to show it to me, But yeah, that was an experience.
Well, I'll share on the mentally fragile question. I have found there be moments where I have felt something around, wow, where is this going? And what, whether it be work or COVID or what have you. But then something will, I'll find something inside me that comes to grips with it. And it might take a minute, it might take 5 minutes, an hour, or maybe a day. And maybe it'll be a friend that I laugh with, or I'll go get some exercise or a glass of wine or something, who knows, or Netflix show. And it'll kind of subside a little bit. and then, you know, it might come back at some point. So it's been kind of an ebb and flow for me, but it's always been kind of just momentary. And there's something, I guess, deep inside that I'm able to work through it eventually pretty quickly.
Mhm. You know, we at work have a saying, the Groundhog Day effect, because we don't get a lot of variety in our days anymore. I don't know about you. I go to the same grocery store. I try to limit how many different places I go, because whatever I've been doing has kept me healthy. So it's like I go to this store, I go to that store. So I've got to be very routine. Either I walk by myself or walk with the neighbor or whatever. And you get up in the morning, you do your routine, you grab a cup of coffee and come up to your office upstairs, and here's where we sit and we see each other. And, you know, we don't have those opportunities to do something different in the day. And so we've called it the Groundhog Day effect.
Sure.
And I was just talking to Matt. I've offset that by adopting a puppy. And so something that is a good disruption in all the other things that we didn't do, and it has brought in at least some variety into my day. And so, you know, I think that we get fatigued from other things too. We start, you know, when we started meeting virtually, we all did a really good job of getting on the camera. Then we all stopped, you know, and then we're reminded, get back on the camera, you know. And so it's interesting how our behavior is, Kurt, to your example, kind of ebbing and flowing and going through these stages of, all right, I'll get on. All right, no, I won't, and stuff like that. So it's been interesting.
Great.
That's me.
Great sharing. Anyone else? Good. What I'm seeing and what I'm studying and what I'm predicting, that this is going to be moving into, you know, we're going to come out on the other end of the storm, but this is moving into towards the end of 2021 for businesses. And so when this happened in March, this is adding to the fragility, and this is an attitude, and everybody went home. It was triage, right? And I think, Seema, you talked about this. People were making this work. We've always thought about virtual and working from home. This is cool. I can wear my yoga pants all day. I can go for a bike ride when I want to. You know, my kids are at home, eat at home. I don't have to drive it. This is cool. And everyone was getting the work done because it's triage. It was like it was an emergency. We hit the couple-month, 3-month mark, and people started being like, whoa, okay. I have a Zoom meeting at 6 in the morning, and then like a bunch of stuff I have to do. It's so complicated. My kids are at home, right? I'm not going anywhere. And then I have a Zoom meeting at 9:30 at night after the kids are in bed. So we're seeing this. It's like these companies were like, this at-home thing is working well. Like they're getting all their stuff done. It's because we were intrigued. It was an emergency. We got it done. Now people are like, for the past couple months, are like, this is starting to suck. I'm working all the time. I don't know when work ends and when it doesn't. You know what? I want to go back to work from 9 to 5 and just leave it there and see people. People are cracking right now. And I think it's going to be weird again for another 2 or 3 months like this. And like McGraw-Hill, I have neighbors, my neighbors, a couple of them work for McGraw-Hill Publishing. Now there's rumors that they're going to downsize, and lots of companies are like this. Well, we don't need this branch. We're getting all this work done from home. So no one is saying to their bosses, this is bullcrap. I'm not doing all this work, because no one wants to be on that lower end of the workforce when McGraw-Hill says we're cutting 20% of our, or whatever company, we're cutting 20%. No, everyone's scratching and clawing to be in the upper half and getting all their stuff done. So I really see people are cracking. Our neighbor comes over all the time. She knocks on the door and she wants to talk to me or my wife out by the fire pit, and she just keep like, she's the kids, and it's just, this is where we are right now, and I really see it. I don't see it getting better for a couple of months. Small businesses are, it's hard to afford rent on Main Street if you don't have anyone in your restaurant. People haven't been paying rent on their apartments. Their car payments are like 3 behind. Things are weird. Things are really strange and weird. And I think that's what we're going to be looking at that for another, 2 or 3 months. I think I just can feel this. I'm starting to see businesses are just shutting down. I can't. And if you're in the service industry, if you're a waiter or a bartender or at a restaurant, you can't go into work all day and only serve a quarter of the people you normally like. So this is where we're at. And it's really an attitude thing. Sometimes it's just saying those things and naming them. And it takes a ton of work to be aware of your attitude and the attitude of those around you, and try to be positive in a negative world.
So, what advice do you have? How do we, other than what I was hearing is allowing people to say it out loud is a technique, and probably easier to do with your coworkers than your family. I'm going to say that out loud, right? Because I think we give our coworkers a little bit more grace than maybe I give my husband sometimes, but because he's out working, and so I'm home alone more now than I was before because he works late nights, and and I'm in my office, so it's kind of interesting. But other than getting it out and allowing that space to just say, here's how I'm feeling about this. And I think this is a safe place to do, because we won't do that at work. We probably won't do that with our coworkers or our leaders. What other things can we do to manage that? Maybe to achieve positive attitude towards it.
Yeah, a couple of things that you said there, Mary, is those are the places where we need to say this. This is why saying this is more important than ever, and saying, hey, it's okay to be in a bad mood. And this just happens. Normally we have one of those days. It's okay to have a bad day. And if you can create a workplace environment or a family environment where you say, it's okay to have a bad day. You just can't have like a bunch of bad days in a row, because one bad day quickly turns to 2, and then 2 become 3. And everybody knows someone who's had like 5 years in a row worth of bad days. It seems like a lot of people have had 6 months in a row worth of crappy days. And this is why it's more important than ever to go into work and say, okay, just what we just talked about. Okay, everyone, this sucks. I know it. You need to have Zoom meetings and talk about this and say, look where we're at. We've been holed up. I'm in yoga pants. I can't even go anywhere, because if I go to put my suit back on, that freaking thing doesn't fit anyhow because I gained 15 pounds. Like, we need to say things like this at work and to our bosses, because this is the real world. This is what people are going through. Spouses and family, we need to do this. I gotta be dudes. So it's really awareness is what I'm getting to. And it's about being aware of our attitudes. So if we lined up 100 people or we had 100 people on Zoom, and I went around and I asked each of you, I said, Seema, do you want to be positive today, or do you want to have a bad attitude today? Positive attitude or?
There are days I actually do want to have a negative attitude. Yeah, I'll just say that. But in general, most days I tend to go positive because it helps decrease my own stressor in the process of it. But there are days that I'm just done. I'm just done. I'm like, I don't care what any of you have to say. I've been nice and I've been positive for all of you for this long, and you're not doing crap for me. So go away.
So typically, if we ask 100 people that at 8 o'clock in the morning, 99 out of 100 people are going to say, I want to have a positive attitude today. Because we know if you're positive, life's better. I used to teach about all the benefits of being positive, but we just kind of know it. We've seen it on bumper stickers. We've been taught it. You know, you make more money if you're mostly positive. You live longer. You're better health. We just know all those things. But it's really about awareness. If I ask 100 people in the front of a room, you know, do you want to be 99 out of 100? There's always going to be that one person that doesn't really give a crap, and that's okay. We know those people. But think about, does your typical day at, say, 10 o'clock, does your work day, are 99% of the people around you mostly positive? And I know it's weird in COVID, but what about later in the day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Are 99% of the people around you mostly positive? I mean, we know the benefits. Now, how about like 10 minutes to quitting time? All of a sudden, everybody's like in a great mood. Okay, this is awareness, is really what it is. So grab your pen and piece of paper. We'll do an awareness exercise. And what I would like you to do is grab that pen, and I want you to write down the first names of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Write down the first names of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Now, of course, in our world now, it can be family, it can be professional. We can consider spending time on a Zoom call, spending time talking on the phone, texting, if you're messaging someone, direct messaging, all of that can be considered spending time with people. At work, at home, it doesn't matter, but write down the first names of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And Mary, I know you want to ask me a question right now. And the answer, I'm not totally psychic, but I know what you want to ask me right now. And the answer to your question is no. Your golden retriever is not a person. You
I
cannot.
was actually thinking that.
That was my second person.
I'm spending a lot of time with them, and you just get so many good kisses right now from the little puppy. So it's been
They're
my.
not people. So cross him off the list. Okay. Now go down your list, and I want you to give each person on that list a percentage grade on how positive they are. Right now, how you think how positive they are. If they're positive all the time, give them a 100. If they're negative all the time, give them a 0. Most of us are somewhere in between, right? Wow. Now, once you've got that, I want you to put your own first name under that list. And give yourself a percentage grade on how positive you are. If you're positive all the time, give yourself a 100. If you're negative all the time, give yourself a 0. Most of us are somewhere in between. So what you've just done is you've just taken a simple attitude inventory, just a simple test, and being aware, keenly aware of your attitude and the attitude of those around you. I believe, and a lot of people will tell you, that attitude is like the biggest thing. It's, you know, it's so huge. You can control your attitude and you can control your effort. And we kind of get that. Rarely do we ever put a value on our attitude. And if you want to put a value on something, you've got to be able to count it. And so you put a number on it, so now you can count it. And we love to count things, don't we? We count things all the time at work, at business. We're counting all the time. Some of you know, like how many, Mary, you might know how many cans of soup you have in the pantry, and you're thinking, boy, I need to pick one up at the store so I can make this recipe. Like we love to count things, but rarely do we count our attitude as an asset and the attitude of those around us. And what I'll tell you, if you take the average of those 5 people, that's going to be that should be the score that you gave yourself if you did this exercise correctly. So I'll give you a minute. Use your device if you want to. So take the average, add up those 5 and divide by 5 and see how that compares to the score you gave yourself. So how'd you do? Was it perfect for anyone?
It's pretty close.
What, couple points off?
I scored myself a little lower than what the average of everyone else would be, but that doesn't surprise me. I usually always score myself a little lower. You know, we're harder on ourselves or think I can always do so much better. But what it made me think of it, and what it made me think of, and then I'll let other people talk, is sometimes, you know, the 5 people will change at my work because it's project-based work a lot of times. So you spend work with these 5 people, so you might have a consistent maybe 3, but a group of 5 is going to be very dynamic in this world because we work on, here's a deliverable we need to get, who's on board to help us do it, and then those 5 roll off and then another 5 come in. So it's and that's not new, but it's kind of interesting, the thoughts that went through my head when I started thinking about the 5 people.
Doreen, I can see you. You look inquisitive about this. Did you like that exercise?
I really did, but I knew how I was going to feel, which is like, I need to hang around better people.
You were way out of whack.
Because I'm out of whack. I scored myself higher than the number I have. And I didn't mean better, but I realized how much work it takes to maintain positivity around people that don't have that same level or don't work at the same level. And it's just exhausting. And, you know, I mean, this very little simple exercise makes you question life choices and stuff. So, yeah.
Maybe that's why you come to the Central Ohio ETD event so often.
This has nothing to do with Ann Arbor folks, yeah. But yeah, I work at a university, so you know, and we've invited students to campus, so it's crazy for us right now. Like every day is a super crazy day. So I tried to pick people who kind of a standard, and I think they would be the same if it was a crazy time or not a crazy time. So yeah, so this is interesting.
Anyone else see anything that they noticed or?
You know, I'll tag off of Doreen, and it's, you know, it is interesting that there's some people who you work with, and I don't know if it's a negative because of a negative attitude, but I notice a lot of negative language more often than what I've noticed before. Like, well, there's a real problem going, you know, or I'm really super worried about. So I hear that more often from this individual, and so I'm assuming that there is some, you know, it drags me down. It causes me to worry. Well, maybe I should be worried about that because I wasn't until I talked to them about it. And so I have those go-to people, like Doreen had said, who I did score fairly high on the list, not to tattle but intentionally reach out to those people who do often have that more positivity or can-do attitude and more positive language for me, because that's what I need is, you know, that problem-solving mode. one of the techniques I often do in the morning walk with the dogs is think about what do I get to do today instead of what do I have to do today. I mentally think about the things that I get to do, and and kind of get jazzed up and excited that these are the things I get to try to accomplish today.
Sure.
But I think that's a tactic or a technique I'm going to do more intentionally, is just reach out to those that I've scored higher on my list more intentionally going forward.
So I see people using this little exercise all sorts of ways. Now, I encourage people to use this at work and use it at home to start the conversation about attitude, because that's really where the sticky point is. We have a hard time talking about fluffy attitude and saying to someone, hey, your attitude isn't as good as it should be. Use this tool to start the conversation. Now, if, you know, I was with Kurt, I'd say, it's not used to fire somebody or to get the Debbie Downer out of your business or the Johnny Raincloud. You know, the person that finds the cloud in every silver lining. Don't use this tool as that. But you can, if you have a team of 10 people at work, make copies, put everybody's name on a piece of paper, give everyone a copy and have them grade each other's attitude. My name's on there too if I'm the boss. Or do a Survey Monkey if you want. Yeah, I mean, you can make it anonymous and do it better. But this starts the conversation. Now, so many companies, I just met with the CEO of a company last week, and he said, Matt, we're really rocking on attitude. We do everything is based on attitude at our company. He showed me pictures in the break room of attitude, on his phone, you know, it's about attitude. His email signature has attitude. They have their mission statement talks about attitude. I said, Brad, this is so cool. I'm so excited. I said, give me a copy of your annual review, your performance review, because you talk about attitude so much. I want to see the section on there in your review about attitude. And he was like, well, we don't really have a section on attitude. I said, well, there's got to be a page on attitude because you've been talking about it so much. Well, we don't really have a page on attitude either. I said, well, on your review, you have to have a couple of questions at least if you're talking. And they're like, he's like, no, you don't even have any questions about attitude on our annual review, even though it's in the company mission statement hanging on the wall. I also encourage people to use this at home. Next time when you sit around for a family dinner, you know, pull out a piece of paper with everybody's name on it. Would you do that, Mary? And you could everyone could grade each other's.
Well, there's just two of us, so.
Hey, Matt, I have a question for you in the panel, if I could ask.
Yeah.
Because I know engagement surveys or employee opinion surveys or culture surveys are used pretty regularly by big companies that are represented on this call. Are we expecting, and do you anticipate those scores to go up, down, or stay about the same compared to prior years?
Are you asking anybody on the panel?
I know there's two big companies represented here. I'd like, without mentioning them, what's your crystal ball tell you, given everyone's working from home, do you expect engagement scores to be higher, lower, or about the same compared to pre-COVID?
I don't know. We often score pretty well on our engagement scores, and we would have done that a few months ago on a regular cycle of work, and a lot of those kinds of things are being delayed because we've been pulsing the organization so much about how we're as an organization reacting to COVID and if they feel supported and those kinds of things. So we have pushed back our engagement survey because we're hearing that people are tired of surveys even though the surveys that we've been doing are pretty darn short. And I think, and now we haven't done anything for a while. So I'm not sure how, what will take effect when we finally do get around to doing those engagement scores, because it will be beyond a year in an annual cycle when we hit that again. So it is an interesting question. And what we do know, and I'll let other people talk, is that what we do know is we are continuing to do our performance events, our performance management cycles. That has not changed, and we're seeing better compliance with those types of events than we've seen in previous years. And all we can do is show how many people click the buttons in the system. We can't really show how good it was, right? But yet we've had more people click the buttons in the system this year than we've had before, by like 10%, which is good. So I don't know what's driving that, or if that means equals engagement, but we're seeing those things.
Thanks, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, what do you, if you had to crystal ball it, do you think engagement of employees will be going up, down, or staying about the same compared to pre-COVID?
So isn't engagement's an interesting word, isn't it? How would you define that for me?
Well, typically, people refer to hearts and minds are in it.
Yep. Yeah. In tricky times, it's going to be a reflection of leadership and how managers and from the top have been able to make this switch into this crazy world that we live in now. I really believe you're going to see good companies and good leaders are going to get good reviews. They're figuring it out. We're all figuring it out. Now, of course, we're all mentally fragile and we're cracked and we're sometimes doing things that we shouldn't be doing or saying things we shouldn't be saying. But I don't know. I think in the next couple months, things are going to get more challenging. And, if you did a survey, there's going to be reflection. These are unprecedented times. When 20 years from now or 30 years from now, somebody's going to be celebrating their 30th anniversary. And all of us are going to be like, you got married in 2020, dude? What the heck? Or if there's a baby, if there's a baby that's 20 years old, and they were born in 2020, we're going to be like, what? Like, a baby, so this is unprecedented times and we don't know. And I really believe it has so much to do with the things you can control, which is your attitude and your effort. Those are the only two things. Those are two things you control.
Thank you.
Kurt, are you seeing from any research that companies might expect a dip in engagement?
Well, total mixed bag. I think the wave that potentially is coming eventually will be there are a great number of employees who kind of like the current situation. And employers, when they may want them to return, that's when you'll start to feel the real rub. And I'm sort of gearing up for employee relations issues and problems to be surfacing a little further down the road, when employee A might want to stay home and likes the virtual, but the employer's got this big building and they want them back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where leadership's really, as Matt mentioned, going to be tested in terms of its quality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
So what I was just going to say is, we just went through our engagement survey, and we just got our results, and it was interesting. It was, at least it was projected higher. I mean, the results, when they put it out there, they did say that Definitely it was a higher percent than what we've had in the past, like overall, if we're looking at overall. But then when you went into the things or the needs improvement section, it was interesting. The things that needed improvement I found was surprising for me because I thought we had done a really nice job with getting people home, being there to engage them, constantly communicating with them. I think the company is way more transparent than it ever has been from top leadership down. Because I think they've just needed to, because that was something from a previous engagement, right? In fact, Russell and I were talking about this morning on our walk about, how it's going to be when we eventually do go back to the workspace, kind of to your point, Kurt, that right now, I think people, so, we went through our rough time with the COVID. And then in June, July is when I think a lot of companies were trying to get back into the spaces. That was the plan. We had everything set up. We've got our team A and our team B, and team B is going to be coming this 2 weeks. And then the following 2 weeks will be this team, everything all set up and planned. They're going to provide us with, thermometers and personal hand sanitizers and extra masks and, everything. And you could feel the immediate tension of everybody at that time, because as much as people wanted to be supportive and wanted to have that person-in-person touch, they at the same time knew that they couldn't touch and they had to be separate. And every time you walked away from your cube, you had to put your mask on. And now I'm like, well, I don't even know if I want to go to the bathroom during the day because I don't know what people have touched. And, like all this stuff started coming up, right? And then I thought, well, Russ and I were talking about that. Well, what about this now? Many companies are looking like after January. Possibly. So next year, starting of next year when they're actually going to start. Well, we've already had people going into the offices. We've had people that are out and about more. We've had people, yes, there's a core group of people that are still staying home doing their thing, but we've had, I think, more movement amongst people in general outside of their home occurring. And so I think, when we do get to the point where we're going back, I think same thing, you're going to see a mixed bag. The people that have been out and about and have already been socializing with people, even if it's social distancing, socializing and doing what they're supposed to do, I think they're more comfortable to do that process of going back to work. But then you've got those folks that still are very locked in their homes. I mean, I'm one of them. Russell and I, we go out, but we literally do walks and we really stay away from people. And part of it also has to do with my family. I have a dad that he can't get sick, or that it's going to be a fatal thing for him. So we have to be careful as a family. But to your point about engagement, I think, like you said, I think right now folks honestly are more mental and they're tired and they're fatigued. And even their leaders are very tired and they're fatigued of being this constant cheerleader for their staff. So not only are they having to do that, but then of course all this work that's piling on top, because now for some reason leadership thinks we need to have a whole bunch of other things added to our projects, our project list, because, we can do this and we can do this and we can do this. Well, that's great, but when in this time frame do you want this done? Do you want me to be engaging to my staff and for them when they need the help? And I can't. And I think, to your point, I think that it's actually going to dive. I think it's going to dive, not because there is an effort being made. I think people are just tired and they need to back off a little bit. They were more empathetic at the beginning. And I think that empathy's gone because now they're like, well, this is your work. Let's go. We need to move forward at a high level. And it's just very frustrating. And then to your point, when we go back, I think you're going to have kind of that mixed bag of maybe people are like, oh, maybe this is getting back to my quote unquote new normal, right? That we talk about. And you're going to have those that you're absolutely right. You're going to have staff that are like, I'm not coming back. I don't want to be back there. I'm very nervous, but I don't want to lose my job either. So it's going to be a very mixed thing, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm watching the time. I want to give Matt the
Oh, yeah.
closing opportunity to help us wrap up. And this has been a great discussion, but Matt, in closing.
Sure, great. And I think what I've thought of while listening to the panel talk is I always think of those 3Ds. And whether you're thinking of a personal relationship, a small business, a big business, whatever, so if a small business, if they're already like divisive, if they're not getting along very well or things aren't going well, that's the first D. If there's some conflict there. The second D I think of with a small business is if they're in decline, or even if you think of a church, because there's all sorts of churches closing across, there's 100 churches in North America close each day because there's conflict, there's decline, so they're not growing, they're staying steadier, they're not growing. And then when you always add a disruption, and COVID has been one big bleeping disruption. And so even if you think of marriage, if there's conflict in a relationship and you're not growing together, and then you throw in a disruption. Disruptions could be simple, like losing, or smaller, like getting in a car accident or losing, all sorts of disruptions. But I see this now with small businesses, the ones that don't have good roots and a good foundation and a good client base, and they were in decline. And this disruption is going to mess it up. And we're going to see that they're going to fail. Remember that you can control attitude and you can control your effort. Be aware of your attitude and the attitude of those around you and the best that you can. If you guys want, if you want to send me an email, since I'm not traveling anywhere right now and I have tomorrow morning free, if you guys want to send me an email, it's just matt@mattbooth.com. I will package up in an envelope and send you guys one of my books if you give me your mailing address, and I'll just send you a book. I was prepared to give a few books away, but that would be good. Now keep in mind that this is what I do for a living. Do virtual programs and live stream, and do programs like this and in person, which is how I started. And if you're thinking of having a meeting, and I really think people need leadership, and they need to be positive now. Don't wait 6 months or till 2021 when you can have a big get together. I think it's more important now than ever, even if it's on Zoom. And we know this virtual world isn't perfect, but to be able to talk candidly and open and talk about attitude and effort and trying to be positive in a negative world. If I can ever help any of you in any way, shoot me an email, call me, connect with me on LinkedIn. If you're like, hey Matt, I want to do this attitude inventory with my team, I'll walk you through it. If you shoot me an email, I'll send you a one-page document on how to do the attitude inventory with the team. It's just simple instructions on how to do it. I really appreciate
Matt,
it. Yeah.
We're asking for your, I'm going to put in the chat box, your email to be repeated. It's Matt at mattbooth.com.
Correct.
And I put it in the chat box.
There you go. You got it.
Question.
Yes.
Did Doreen, you have a question?
I did. You named the 3Ds, but what are they? The 3Ds of what? The 3Ds of
what it would be when businesses, I read this mostly with a church, in a church setting, like how they defaulted or what happened. Why did the church close? So they would say because they were divisive, so there was conflict. So small businesses, I see a lot of that.
Okay, so they're like the 3Ds of doom, or the 3Ds of
wow, that sounds like a book or a blog post or a video. The 3Ds of Zoom, of doom.
I said doom, but
Doom.
okay, I can figure out okay.
Yeah, I just took it as the 3Ds that, cause and get in the way of being positive.
Okay.
That they keep us from being positive, and there is a lot of divisiveness.
Mm-hmm.
It's everywhere right now, and so That's how I took it. Well, I like the New Zealand stays happy. New Zealand has great leadership. Be like New Zealand. That's in our chat. We'll have copies of the chat, and maybe we can stay connected with this small group of cohorts. Matt, that you've helped gel us. We've shared a little bit with each other. I think it was what I needed at this time. I appreciate you giving us the space to have this conversation and to guide us through it. It's just been a great evening. And in closing, and again with appreciation to what you've done, Matt, we ask and encourage people to look into the events that we have coming, which down the road will be our Christmas event. We are going to be inviting our speakers back to our holiday event. In the near term, we have an event with an Allen Academy company that is about creating e-learning events that aren't boring. So I think it's an opportunity to go take our attitude conversation into, I don't know if you get excited about creating e-learning events, but that's where my stress level goes way up. So we are happy and excited to offer that free to anybody who is an ATD member, and at a real low cost if you have not become a member yet. So look at our events that we have coming up. And this was a really nice break from anything that we've done. The PowerPoint free experience, Matt, has been a real pleasure. So thank you again so much for your time and for attending, everybody.
Thank you.
Yep, round of applause. Take a bow. Yep. Hey, stay safe, and I guess stay happy, right?
Okay.
In
Thank you.
closing. Thank you so much.